Namaste and welcome. It's Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com, and today we are going to be speaking about Karma Yoga. Now, this is by far one of the most misunderstood branches of yoga. I think because a lot of people think that in order to practice Karma Yoga, you need to start some kind of a charity organization. and this is actually not true. So what I want to do in today's video is really give you a very good understanding, a very practical understanding of what Karma Yoga is, how one can practice it, how does it lead to realization, and essentially what is the reason that you should practice it, because it can make your life very beautiful. It can make a very mundane life beautiful, just through a change of perspective. So let's get into it. Now, before we get into the theory and the practice, I want to tell you a very beautiful story which covers the essence of what Karma Yoga is all about, okay? And the story is actually about somebody, a Swami Sarvapriyanandas. If you watch spiritual videos on YouTube, you may have come across him. He is in my humble opinion, one of the best living teachers of Vedanta. He is a monk in the Vedanta Society, I believe, of New York. So here's how he looks. And if you're interested in Vedanta, I highly recommend that you actually look at his work, okay? He's amazing, amazing. So the story that he tells is actually about himself being at an airport. So he's traveling, and one day he's at an airport, and it is in the wee hours of the morning. So the airport's kind of empty. The workers there are also a bit idle, not having much to do. So they see him, and he's basically waiting to board his plane. And the workers, they come to him and say that, Swamiji, you are here. It looks like you have some time. Please give us a talk. Just tell us something. And he's like, what do I tell you? And they say, anything. Just look, we're here. We have some time. Be nice to hear something positive, something inspirational. So just tell us something, okay? And he says, okay. What can I tell you, essentially? So he thinks about it, and he thinks, let me say something to them that will essentially help them live a better life immediately, right? Something that will have an immediate impact on their life. So he asks them that, do you believe in God? And one of the workers puts his hand up and says, yes, I believe in God. And he says, which God do you pray to? And he says, I pray to Hanumanji. And the Swami says, okay, so what do you do? How do you pray? And the worker says that, every morning in my home temple, I have an image of Lord Hanuman, and I will light a candle, and maybe I will put a flower at the feet of Lord Hanuman and just, start my day in that nice way. So the Swami says, okay, that's really nice. And then what happens then? And then he says, then, we come into work, just the normal life, essentially, right? So the Swami says that, do you want to know a way of making your life much more beautiful than perhaps you perceive it to be now? And, they're all like, yes, yes, we do want to know. And Swamiji says that, okay, so how about this? You are working in the airport, you are sweeping the floors, you are monitoring the barrier, the metal detector, right? Where people are passing through, essentially. So what you can do, essentially, you can switch your perspective and try to see the divine in every being that you are serving. So every time you are sweeping the floor, or every time somebody walks through the metal detector, you obviously greet them as a normal person, but mentally you picture Lord Hanuman and you offer a flower at his feet. And by doing this, you are essentially recognizing the divinity in every being that is walking past. And the workers were like, Wow, so we can pray to Lord Hanuman the entire day. and Swamiji is like, yes, you can pray to Lord Hanuman the entire day. And this is, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps as I say this. It's one of the very subtle ways to have a change in perspective and spiritualize your entire life. Spiritualize your entire life, essentially. The actions that you do not do them merely as actions. You do them as an offering to the divine, however you perceive the divine, essentially. Okay? So, it would be okay if I ended the video here and, and said, this is how you practice Karma Yoga. That is pretty much all you need to know, okay? But just for the sake of it, let's go into the theory of, what are we trying to do in Karma Yoga? And, for you, practically, how can you practice it? Because, different people have different temperaments, essentially. So let's go through this for a bit. So the first question we will answer is, what is the aim of Karma Yoga? Very simple. Just like any other yoga, the aim of Karma Yoga is enlightenment. The aim is spiritual realization. The aim is to take you to that highest ideal human state of oneness, where you realize that you are not this body and mind. You are in fact the spirit, and you are one with the entirety of creation. Okay? So how does Karma Yoga set about to do that? So the paradigm in Karma Yoga is this. The paradigm, and this, by the way, I've also taken from Swami Sarvapriyanandas' work. Okay, so I don't want to take credit for this. A lot of the ideas that I'm speaking about are actually from his work. Okay, so the idea, the paradigm in Karma Yoga is that I am selfish, right? I operate from the ego. I operate to please the mind and body, and this is why I suffer, okay? Because if you remember from yoga philosophy, in yoga philosophy we said that we are already pure consciousness, right? But what happens is, for us to operate in this world, we have been given a sense of individuality, which is the ego, the sense of I, like I am separate from you, this I-ness, right? But this I-ness essentially is what prevents us from seeing that we are one with everything, right? So spirituality, you can say, is very much about removing this I, right? Removing the I and experiencing the oneness. So the paradigm is that I'm selfish. I do actions. Everything I do is to please myself, to please this mind and body, or maybe to please members of my family. But that's pretty much it. This is how we humans are. So when I do actions in this way to please myself, right? When I do actions for the results, I want the results of my actions. I want the fruits of my actions. This increases our ego. This increases our sense of individuality. So the ego here is not meant in a negative term. It is meant that the ego essentially is your sense of individuality, your I-ness, right? So because of this, we cannot experience oneness. So what we want is, we want to diminish this. We want to remove this completely. But as long as we are doing actions that are for the fruits, for the results of our actions, to please this mind and body, we are operating in a selfish way, and this will simply increase the ego. Okay? So action that is done in this way is karma, simply karma. Karma means action, right? The actions that we all do. So what Karma Yoga is telling us is that from selfish, we want to become selfless. We want to become selfless, because when we become selfless, then our ego will come down, very simply. So we are changing the perspective from I want the fruits of my actions to I surrender the fruits of my actions. So any action that I do is actually not for my own benefit. I'm doing the action, yes. It's not that I'm not going to do the action. I am going to do the action. I'm going to act in this world. But the result of that, I'm going to surrender. Surrender to what? surrender to the divine. Like how when the workers were told that you basically, you serve the person, right? Don't expect anything in return. Mentally, you put a flower on the feet of Lord Hanuman and you think that I've just served my Lord. I don't need anything. That's it. That's why I did the action, right? Now, look, I appreciate that this is probably something that's going to be difficult for you to understand. You may not even understand this by watching this video, right? Because we have been trained since we are born to compete. Basically, we have been trained to compete. We have to be better than others. We have to get better marks than others. We have to earn more money than others. We have to have a more beautiful partner than others. We have to live in a bigger house than others. And most of the actions that we are doing day in, day out are just to serve these purposes. They are all actions for the fruits, to please the mind and body, to increase the ego. Okay? So I'm not expecting you to understand by watching this video or to change your perspective immediately by watching this video. That's not likely going to happen, right? What we're doing here is we are understanding what is Karma Yoga and try to see now what are some practical ways that I can practice this in my life and slowly chip away at that ego. That is the idea, okay? So, in very simple terms, if we are doing actions for fruits, we have to change the perspective and we have to surrender the fruits of the actions. And a very simple way of saying this is that the action must be spiritualized. The action must be spiritualized. So what does this mean, spiritualized? It means that these actions, the selfish actions, are coming from the understanding that I am this body, I am this mind, and everything I do is to please this body and mind. Those you can say are selfish actions, okay? But remember, the science of yoga is telling us that you are not this body and mind. You are actually the spirit that is within. And the same spirit that is within me is the same spirit that is within you, is the same spirit that is within all beings. So instead of performing actions from the paradigm of I am this body and mind, we must perform actions from the paradigm of I am the spirit. And that is what it means to spiritualize the action. Because when you understand that you are the spirit, we are not different spirits. We are all the same. We are the one, all-pervading consciousness, which means that I am in you and you are in me. So the way that you treat the people around you should be no different than how you wish to be treated yourself. This is the golden rule. Treat others how you wish to be treated, essentially. So this is the basic idea, okay? Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this kind of makes sense, but how would I practice it, right? Because remember, this is not a theory. Karma Yoga is not about theory. It is not about understanding intellectually. It is about practicing and understanding experientially how this change will happen. So let's go and look at some practical ways that you can actually, perform Karma Yoga, so to speak, okay? So the first thing, I'm going to give you four or five different things that you can ponder over and actually decide for yourself, how do you want to implement these into your life? This is not a practice of meditation where you're told do this, do this, do this, do this. This, depending on your personality, your personal circumstances, you have to basically figure out how you can do the best you can with the resources that you have. Okay? So the first and the most popular way of practicing Karma Yoga is developing the sight that I am seeing my God, my Lord, in every being, in every human, in every animal, in every part of nature, essentially. And when we have this view, the way that we will treat them will be very different. You cannot cheat somebody who you think is your God. You cannot lie to them. You cannot steal from them. You cannot take what is theirs. Instead, you have a very different temperament. You want to give them. You want to give them love. You want to give them service. You want to shower them with everything that you possibly can. So for a lot of people, this will work very well. This is just like the workers at the airport. You know, they're serving somebody. Usually they would just be standing there, maybe, you know, not that happy, right? And thinking like, oh, I hate this job. And just like trying to get through the day. But all of a sudden, when now, you know, they're thinking that the person walking through is actually my Lord Hanuman, the whole perspective changes. There is a smile on the face. They are greeting this person with a smile and love, seeing the divinity in them. There is an increased energy. Life, you know, as they're wearing these amazing new colored sunglasses, which is making life very beautiful. So this is one thing that you can do. And with practice, slowly it will increase. It's not going to happen in a day, but with practice, slowly it will increase, slowly it will increase. Okay? That's thing number one. See your Lord, your God, the Divine Mother in everyone. Number two, if you are somebody that does not actually like the idea of God or a personal God, no worries, no worries. Because that spirit that we are talking about, that you are, your true nature, that is divinity, essentially. So instead of seeing everybody as God, you can see everybody as spirit. You can recognize that the same self that is in me is the same self in this other person. And by doing so, you realize that we are both just the same. We are the same, essentially. So the way that I treat you, again, in the same way, will just be how I want to be treated myself. And what do I want? I want love. I want help. I want support. I want people to like me. Great. So I'm going to give this to you because you are me, essentially. And what you will realize if you practice this is that, you see, this is why the law of karma works. Why do you think the law of karma exists? Why do you think it works? Why do you think that if you do something good, good will happen to you? And if you do something bad, bad will happen to you? Why do you think? Because the spirit that is within all of us is the same, which means we are all the same. So if I do good to you, I'm actually doing good to myself. And if I do bad to you, then I'm actually doing bad to myself as well. So when you start to realize this, when you start to experience this, you will see everyone as the same as you. You will see everyone as your immediate family, and you will love them so, essentially. And again, look, I'm not saying this will happen in a day, but slowly, 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 with time, right? It will increase and increase and increase, okay? So these are two perspectives, okay? See everybody as God, or see everybody as spirit. Recognize the divinity in them. Now, I want to give you two more practical things that you can do, physical things that you have to do, okay? The first one, this is a great rule that has been followed in India for a very long time, which is to actually give 10% of your income to charity, to somebody that needs it, but you're giving 10% away, essentially, right? And money, as you very well know, is one of the biggest drivers in this world, right? So the fact that you are taking 10% of your salary, no matter how much you earn, that you are taking 10% of your salary and you are giving it to somebody that needs it in whatever way, mentally you are telling yourself that this person is just the same as me, essentially. With every time you do that, your ego, your sense of individuality is falling. It is falling. It is falling. If you can afford to, then you can give much more than 10%. But if you cannot afford to, if you are struggling right now, trust me, this is the time to start giving that 10%. It will make you feel more abundant. You'll only know it once you try it, okay? It will make you feel more abundant. So giving 10% as a bare minimum is really important. And the second one And I'm going to end with this, okay, because this will give you a lot to think about, essentially. The second one is to actually do something you love in life. To actually do something that you love in life. Because if you are doing something that you love, then you are not that worried about the fruits of the action, right? When an artist is drawing, he's not really thinking about how much money am I going to get for this. He's doing it because he loves it. When a chef is cooking, he's or she is not thinking about, the customers are going to buy this for $50. That's not what they're thinking. They're enjoying the process. They're enjoying the process, right? So this is why if you are able to do something that you love, essentially, in life, then it becomes much easier for you to surrender the fruits of your actions, because you are not doing it for any real benefit, right? Maybe not completely. A lot of you is doing it for the act itself. And this thing that you love, do not be mistaken. This thing that you love, do not be mistaken, is actually a gift from the universe to you, that you are here to share, that you are here to spread, that you are here to benefit people with, essentially. I've seen a big change in myself. I used to work in sales for a good 8 or 9 years. And as spirituality became a bigger thing in my life, I started to dislike my job, because I was selling to people. And first of all, I didn't really care about the product I was selling. And because of that, when I'm trying to convince somebody that you need to buy this product, it just made me feel like if this is the Mother Divine, right? If this is her, how am I going to convince her to buy something that I don't believe in or even care about? And because of this, my performance dipped at work. And naturally, I said, you know what? I'm gonna move on and do what I want to do, which is these videos, teaching meditation, right? This is why I can do these videos and give the best information, right? Instead of hiding it in a course, I can just give it away for free, because it's what I love doing. It's what I love doing. And at the back of my mind, I know that if I give it away in this way, whatever I need will be taken care of. It will be taken care of by nature. It will be taken care of by nature. Okay? So this is the thing. And look, you may not be in a position where you can immediately start doing what you love, right? There may be a process that you need to go through. So do it slowly. Nothing needs to happen today. The only thing that needs to happen today is you slightly change your perspective, right? You slightly change your perspective, and even if you're doing something that you're not that happy in, change the lens. Try to see the people around you in your work as divine, essentially. And when you change the way you treat them, life will start becoming more pleasant. When life starts becoming more pleasant, more opportunities will become visible to you, and slowly you'll be able to start doing and finding what you love, essentially, right? So this is the thing, and let me end with this. This is another story, but I'm ending with this because it is so powerful that if you understand this, you will get rid of fear completely in your life, okay? So there was once a monk, and someone came to him and said that, why do bad things happen to me, right? Well, why do bad things happen to me? Like, I've never done anything wrong to anyone. And this story, by the way, is from Om Swami, who I spoke about yesterday. So somebody comes to him and says that why do bad things happen to me? I never do anything wrong to anyone. And Om Swami says, so what, right? So what? Like, you not doing anything wrong to anyone is no big deal. As a human being, you are not supposed to do anything wrong to anyone. You're not supposed to. Not harming people, either verbally or physically, is not, an act of divinity. It is just merely just the baseline behavior of being, a decent human being, right? So the Swami tells him that, tell me, what have you done for other people? people that are not your immediate family members or yourself, what have you done for society? How many people have you helped? Forget about how many people you haven't harmed. How many people have you helped? And he goes quiet because he knows that he hasn't really helped anybody. And the Swami says to him that you need to remember one thing, that nature, this universe, right? Nature helps those that help it. Because the universe, nature, Mother Nature has got a very serious job to do. The sun needs to come up every morning, right? It needs to set in the evening. Everything needs to work. You need to keep on breathing. Your food needs to be digested when you eat. The trees need to grow and take away your carbon dioxide. The oceans need to do what they do, right? The entire creation has a very serious job to do to keep on running. So nature will actually help you if you are helping it, because its nature is thinking that, okay, this person is helping me. He's helping 10 people, so I don't need to help them directly. So I'm going to give this person resources to basically do my job. It's the same way that a company works. Somebody who is performing really well, is given more responsibility, is given leadership, is given extra resources. It's the very same thing. So we have to really understand that if we want to do something, if you're doing something for other people, doesn't mean that you're losing out. It doesn't, because nature is there to actually help you if you are doing that. Nature helps those that help it, essentially. Okay? And if you realize that you are part of nature, if you realize that you are nature and you operate from that way, then that is karma yoga, essentially. So there you have it, my 2 cents on this topic. I really hope that was helpful. Thank you very much for listening. Namaste.